Coming up on What's the Hoops, one game will decide whether you're in the state tournament or not. We have the SODAK 16 preview for all four classes who are set: girls AA, single A, and Class B, and boys 2A. Jandy and I are going to talk about it today, right here on our playoff edition of What's the Hoops. And hello, and thank you for joining us. It's What's the Hoops, What's the Haps with everybody. It's playoff time. I'm Darron Wallace, joined by Jason and Andera. Jandy, if you're a friend of the show or a friend of the man himself. And here we are. It's playoff time. The SODAK 16s are set for four of our classes. We've still got two to work out on the boys' side, but all the classes are set for the girls, and we've got boys AA playoff SODAK 16 set, and this is the best time of the year, Jenny. So this is what everyone's been waiting for.
We used to do region qualifiers. You'd have 8 different regions. You'd have one team from every region make the state tournament. A couple years ago, they went to this SODAK 16 format, and I have really liked that. I think it really helps you find the best teams that go to the state tournament. So what's the hoops today? It's playoff basketball, and we're finally ready to talk about playoff basketball, especially on the girls' side.
Yeah, and then of course, before we dive into all that, just to kind of elaborate a little bit on what you said there. So the SODAK 16s is comprised of 2 teams from each region from all the different classes, and then we have the SODAK 16s, which will be played this weekend and next week for the boys as well. Rather, 2 classes on the boys, still got to get through their region, but next week the boys, they'll end up with their SODAK 16, and then they'll get to their state tournament. But how you get to the state tournament is, right now the SODAK 16 teams that are matched up will play each other. Then based on who wins, those teams will be reseeded based on power points. So for those
except
of you,
for AA, that's the only one that plays it through.
Yeah, except for AA, they go as is, but Class A and B, they will reseed after those initial SODAK 16 games are played. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, that's kind of the format we're working with.
Got it.
Yeah, and just before we get going into that, any thoughts on that? Do you think that this is what South Dakota needs, or do you think maybe we could see a shift in any?
Yeah, you know what? They seem to change it time and time again. There are always different theories on how to get the best teams to the state tournament, and you know what? This is really the best one I've seen in my time covering high school basketball. You could do it a million different ways, and you can make a million different people happy, but this is the best way, I think, to get the best teams into the state tournament. In AA especially, I know you could go back to the region format with that, where maybe you lose a game and still have a chance to win your way back in, but I like the SODAK 16. I like the one-and-done aspect that it brings, and we've got some good ones to talk about.
Yeah, there's no time like March, and it's about that time. We're just a couple of days away from the best month of the year. Let's take a look at those SODAK 16s. They're all set. We'll start in girls AA since the girls are all done. Let's take a look at them. Friday, March 1st, it'll all go down, and these are home games. These aren't neutral site games. These are home playoff games, if you will. We have a few games highlighted in girls 2A that we want to look at. We got the 8-9 game, the 10-7 game, and the 11-6 game. Always 11-6, even in the high school level. 11-6 is always a treacherous game. You never know who could win.
Yeah, those 5-12s, those 6-11s. Yeah, they're all good for sure.
Right, and we'll start with Stevens against Rapid City Central in Rapid. They've alternated winners over the last 4 meetings, the last 2 seasons. Central's won 5 straight. Stevens has won 5 straight going into this game. So, who do you lean with? This is probably as close as it gets in terms of an 8-9 matchup.
Yeah, this is interesting. Stevens obviously has had some success over the last few years getting to not only state tournaments but deep into state tournaments. And this year, maybe not quite as deep of a team, but they're playing great right now, especially coming into the tournament. They've got a star in their team in Talia Porter. She's really good. She's going to go as the team goes. So if she can bring this team along, they're going to find a way to get this done. Central, on the other hand, their new head coach, Ty Miller, has done an excellent job. They have not been a factor at the state level for years. And this year, she has this team playing very well together with some strong seniors on this team. They're playing very well, coming in with 5 straight wins. I don't know. Picking a winner in this one sounds dangerous to me. This could go either way. You've got a rivalry game that they've split the last 4 meetings together with. It could go any way, and it's really going to come down to execution. You hate to hear that, but it really is. It's going to come down to execution, and I really like the way Central has been playing. coming into this, but it's hard to beat a player like Talia Porter when it comes to this time. So if I had to make a pick, I'd go with Stevens, but this is really a coin flip game.
Right, and of course, the winner will get a date with the winner of O'Gorman and Roosevelt. And of course, shout out to Roosevelt.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about that team, where they've come from. So shout out to them
Blake
for
Bradfield's
making
done a great job.
Yeah, shout out to them for making it to the SODAK 16. Very impressive stuff from Coach Bradfield. So, of course, the winner will move on and play the winner of that game. Then another game in this section that you've got your eye on, Washington, the number 10 seed, at the 7-seeded Harrisburg. Harrisburg beat Washington 61-54 in December. Washington did beat Mitchell, but lost both games in Rapid City last weekend.
Weird.
But Harrisburg's also 2-5 over the last 3 weeks, so not exactly where you want to be during this time of the year. So how could this shake out? I mean, Washington is one of those teams that kind of, they're well coached. They've got one of the they're reigning state champs, and they got one of the best players in the state. How does this shake up? Because I think this isn't truly a 10-7. Might even be closer to that 8-9 type of feel.
I totally agree with you there. I mean, Washington is a team that has traditionally been a very good team. Harrisburg's been a team that's traditionally been a very good team. They're both trying to play their best. We thought Washington was, for when they did knock off Mitchell, the only team to knock off Mitchell. Grace Peterson, you talk about one of the best players in the state, has been on fire. And then they go to Rapid City and they run into a roadblock, and they're going to need to turn that around before they play Harrisburg, because Harrisburg's a team that we know can play with anybody in the state. This is the best game of the SODAK 16, and it really could come down to, again, just a shot here, a shot there. Both teams so well coached. You've got star players on both sides of the aisle with Sadie Merriman and Grace Peterson, and so many good Lawrenson, so many good players on both sides. It's just sad that one of these teams is not going to make it to the state tournament, because whoever wins this game could be very dangerous if they play what looks like they're going to play Mitchell on the other side of the bracket. And I think either of these teams is going to give Mitchell a really tough first-round game. Don't know who the favorite is at this point.
Right, and like you said, winner would likely get Mitchell. Of course, Mitchell in that first round will be playing Yankton, the 2 and the 15 matchup there. But again, this, like you said, I kind of feel the same way, where either Washington or Harrisburg, whoever wins, can make a real run. I mean, not just beating Mitchell, but really making a run at the whole thing. I mean, it can't be overstated or really understated how much that confidence from winning the state tournament a year ago can go for a team, regardless of, who graduated, who's back, who's not back. Just that confidence of knowing we did it a year ago can go a long way in terms of being able to make that run, especially as a lower seeded team, where maybe on the wrong day, a team will overlook you, and then they'll get beat. Then again, the last game that we really highlighted in this AA section, Aberdeen Central against Spearfish. Aberdeen has lost 5 straight, but Spearfish hasn't made a state tournament game since 2014. So it's kind of contrasting styles, where maybe you get a team that is a little bit more inexperienced and hasn't been in this situation before. But also on the other side, Aberdeen, for all that, for as many games as they've ever played in the state tournament, losing 5 straight at this time of the year, you don't know how a team is going to recover from that, whether they're going to be confident or whether they're going to be kind of down on themselves. So maybe you could have a situation where Spearfish is maybe more motivated and Aberdeen still trying to find themselves, or Aberdeen just kind of, asserting themselves as maybe a more experienced team in the situation, and Spearfish maybe quite yet doesn't know how to deal with the state tournament game.
Aberdeen Central, their 2 best players are underclassmen. Lauren Burkhart, has offers to play at SDSU, but she's still young. And then you've got Taryn Hermanson, another sophomore big on the inside. And that inexperience, I think that inexperienced leadership is really starting to show up here. They were flirting with the rankings and being one of the top teams, but they're just not quite there yet as a team. So that's why they've come in late February and not played their best ball. Spearfish, I feel like they're kind of like the Pierre Governors from last year. Pierre went all the way to the state tournament title game. Nobody expected them. They didn't have any, fanfare. They didn't have any tradition coming in. Spearfish, same way this year. They've got a really good squad, but don't have that tradition to lean on. I think they are in a position where they could really make a run in this state tournament. But it starts with beating a tough team just to get into just to get into the state tournament. But if Spearfish gets in, they could be trouble for a lot of teams.
Yeah, and of course the state tournament for the AA section will be in the Pentagon, all neutral site games. I'm excited. I really am looking forward to seeing just who can rise. I mean, high school basketball this time of year is always so special because it's always about who can rise, who will have that moment, kind of like, like they say in college, one shining moment. And it really comes down to, just really who wants it more in the end.
These three teams, games that we talked about, I expect to be the three best games. I would guess the other teams, probably you're going to see Chalk make it to the state tournament. I mean, stuff can happen. I think Huron is a team that you got to watch out for, but I think Pierce got them handled. Jefferson coming off of not the best ending to their season. Tough game against Watertown, but I think they can get it done. Brandon Valley's played very well. I think they're going to find a way to get to the state tournament. And we already talked about Mitchell and O'Gorman as being, the heavy favorites in this one. So those three games are the ones that really, there could be some pivotal wins and losses on those three games.
All right, there it is, girls 2A section. Now we'll take a look at the girls single A section, starting on Thursday at neutral sites. 4 games highlighted here. Actually, 5 games that that you've highlighted as matchups that could be interesting. And the first one that kind of pops off at me, I mean, you have it at the top, but I think just looking at the seeding, people might not expect it. But Hill City at Flandreau in Chamberlain. Hill City's had their best season since 2019 and 2020, but Flandreau still unbeaten. But they're the 3 seed. They're not the 1 seed, which you typically
number 1 in the rankings, but 3 seed.
Yeah, and typically you go undefeated, you usually get rewarded with that in terms of maybe home games or just being the number 1 seed, being the top seed, so you get an easier path per se. So you kind of got Hill City, who's riding high and with one of their best seasons in recent memory, but also Flandreau, they haven't lost a game.
This game's going to be closer than people think. I'll tell you what, Flandreau comes in as the number 1 seed. Hill City hasn't done anything in a while. People are going to probably just look past this game. I think it's going to be closer than people think. But Flandreau does have Claire Shepard. They do have Lily Klein. They've got college players on this court who are really focused on making a run this year, and they've got an opportunity to do just that. I think it's going to be closer than people think, but watch out. The Flyers still have a mission here.
Yeah, Claire Shepard especially. I mean, when you have arguably the best player in Class A, maybe even in the whole state, and being this the 3 seed makes you a lot more dangerous when you got that kind of a player and you're not the number 1 team. Then we've got number 13 winner against number 4 Vermilion in Menno. No one has been better defensively than winner. They allow just 30.6 points per game. It sounds crazy when you say that out loud.
Similar records,
Right, and Vermilion is coming off a 47-42 win over Lennox in Region 4A.
They had to grind
so, yeah, these are 2 really good teams, 2 defensive teams. Might not see a lot of sparks flying as far as offense, but ultimately, I mean, not to make you make any predictions, but is there any way that you're leaning in terms of, because they always say defense travels.
Right.
So in a neutral site, who do you think has the better defense and maybe get the job done?
We've seen Vermilion play really good against good competition this year, and Brooke Jensen, one of their stars. They've got some young players who've done fantastic jobs this year, but that can get neutralized when you have Winter. A team like Winter, they travel because of their defense. They could shut down Vermilion. Again, I think you look at Vermilion as a team that people are kind of just checking into the next round. I say hold up. Winter could be a team that gives them a real challenge on Thursday night.
Yeah, allowing just 30 points per game. Doesn't matter who you're playing. If you're only giving up 30 points, I mean, imagine you only have to score 32, 35 points, and that's 16 layups when you break it down
in this game.
There'll be no easy buckets in this matchup. But again, when you break it down like that, only having to make 8 layups a half and you can still win the game makes it so much easier for you, to win. A 12-5 matchup. The 12-5s are giving college teams fits in the NCAA tournament, but they're also you think that it could give Maipia Luta.
Yes, formerly known as
fits.
Red Cloud, for those of you who don't know, they petitioned to have their name changed into their native language, and so Maipia Luta is the team to beat, and haven't lost yet this year.
Yeah, and they'll be playing the 12-seeded Belfort. Belfouche, excuse me, again.
That's all
Jersey
right.
guy. Maipia Luta, they won by 10 earlier this year when they played, but both teams are coming in hot. Maipia Luta's won 21 straight, and Belfouche has won 10 straight. So both teams playing just about as well as you would want to at this time of the year. But being a 12 seed makes Belfouche dangerous moving forward, even beyond this, because of how well they're playing.
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be a battle of 2 teams playing really well.
Yeah, Maipia Luta, a team that's probably been under the radar as much as any undefeated team can be. And Belfouche comes in with Mateo Ward, an outstanding individual player. She has really led her team to a couple of upsets, and I think their team is getting overlooked a little bit too. So this will be the toughest battle for Maipialuta all season long, but they're used to making it to state. They've played big games over the last couple of years. I think they're the favorites here, but watch out. Belle-Fourche could be a real test.
Yeah, this could be one of those 12-5 matchups that on paper you see, 12-5 can't be close, but hold on. The 12 seed has something to say. We got number 10, Mount Vernon Plankinton, at number 7, Aberdeen Roncalli in Huron.
Yeah.
So, again, another neutral site game. MVP, they won 49-28 over Wagner. They shut down Ashton Kupel, and Roncalli has won 10 of their last 11. So both teams, again, feeling good about where they're playing in playoff time. And MVP is one of the better players in the entire state. So, again, one of those 10-7 games that really feels more 8-9 than it does 10-7.
You know what? Honestly, Mount Vernon Plankinton comes into this riding high because they beat one of the top teams. You know, coming into the year, we thought Wagner was going to be a team that was battling for a championship. They beat Wagner to get to this spot. They have to be feeling excellent right now. And they tied, actually, in seed points with Florence Henry. Florence Henry won the tiebreaker, but in my mind, MVP actually wins. They get a more favorable matchup in my mind because they get to go play Roncalli, and Florence Henry has to go play Hanson. So it's weird how that kind of works out. I think Mount Vernon Plankinton has a great chance to make it to state. And Emily Fox, been playing since an 8th grader, has always wanted a chance to get to the state tournament, always had a tough time with her team to punch that ticket to the state tournament. She has a chance in her senior year to make this a really special season for MVP. Yeah,
this is where legends are made, as they say, Jenny. So we'll definitely have our 2 eyes on that matchup, and hopefully, if I'm being honest, I think people want to keep seeing Emily Fox playing, but who knows which way this game can go. Then the last game in this section to highlight, number 9, Florence Henry against number 8, Hanson. So this is the 8-9 game. These are 2 really dangerous 5-loss teams. They both played really tough schedules. And Florence Henry won 47-45 during the regular season when these 2 teams linked up.
This is the postponed Hanson Classic game that they made up in early February.
Right. So only a 2-point win in that one. So again, these are 2 evenly matched teams. It shows in their results, and it could show again when these 2 teams link up again. I imagine it'll probably be another close game.
Oh, this is going to be one of the best games of the first round. And the last time they played, Hanson did a number on Kaylin Kelly, the future NSIC player for Florence Henry. And luckily, Taylor Watson came out and had a huge game with 22 points of her own. Florence Henry did get the victory in that one, but Hanson's going to have to come out with a special game again to shut down Kaylin Kelly twice. That's really hard to do. I think this is going to be just as tight a game as it was the first time around when they played less than a month ago.
Yep. The state tournament, of course, for Class A will be at the Brookings Dakota Center, so not the Pentagon. Everyone's got their own site.
Yeah, and it's not Frost either this year. It's in, the Swiftdale Center. Used to be called the Swiftdale Center, now called the Dakota Center.
Yeah, so you can check out all the state tournament action there. If you can't make it to any of these neutral site games, I always encourage people to go and check out these high school kids because it's always impressive. You never know what you're going to get. And playoff basketball makes it that much more exciting because you can really get anything happening in any one of these games. Then lastly, let's move over to Class B for the girls. It all starts Thursday, neutral sites. Only really one game that we've highlighted, but of course Class B can get as wacky as anything.
It can. It's probably a little less likely, though, just because of the matchups. We've seen a little less cream rise to the top, and I really don't think there's going to be a ton of upsets in this SODAK 16, but there are a couple that we want to mention. Yes,
number 9, James Valley Christian against number 8, Lemon. This will be in Gettysburg, JVC. You've got them as maybe a surprise team if they can get to the tournament, and they feel like their regular season prepared them for tournament play. And when you're battle tested, that confidence does go a long way because you can remember that tough game we had in November, that tough game we had in early January, and how we overcame it, or how maybe we didn't. So what do we need to do this time? So just tell me about JVC and why you think that they can be that type of team.
I think Krista Robinson has this team playing really well, and they don't do it with a ton of seniors. They do it with some leaders, some juniors, and some players that haven't had this big spotlight on them yet. But what they did with could be their toughest game of the year. They played number 1 seed Arlington just a couple of weeks ago, and they played right with them. It was a 2-point game. I think JVC is the team we were not talking about that could pull one off. Once they get to the state tournament, they could have a rematch against Arlington. That could be the 8-1 matchup, and they already played a very close game this year. Kaylee Robinson's been their leading scorer this year, 16 points a game. Alexa Gertz has also done a nice job for them at shooting guard. Great backcourt play on this team. I think this is a team I'm really watching. I hope they have a chance to make it to the state tournament just because I really want to see them play on that big stage. They've got a chance to be really good.
Yeah, when you're battle tested, and really, it doesn't matter who you're playing, number 1, number 9, number 16, when you're battle tested, you have that feeling that you can overcome anything. But then you've also highlighted Rapid City in Class B. What about them is standing out to you as far as it goes for this section? Yeah,
this section could be a lot of fun to see as well. They're going to be playing the state tournament in Rapid City, and usually the Class B tournament we don't see in a Sioux Falls or a Rapid City. So I think that'll be a lot of fun to be able to play in Rapid City. But yeah, we go back to the favorites here. Arlington, they haven't been ranked number 1 all year, but they move up to the number 1 seed. Ethan's been the team that we've really concentrated on as being the team to beat. They didn't get a top 3 seed. They're the 4 seed, so they could have trouble if they get into the semifinals with a really tough matchup on a Friday night. But Centerville, Warner, Wall, Lyman, I think these are all teams that I could really see punching their ticket to the state tournament and really having some success there too. And another team, undefeated, Harding County. They really have some tools this year too, and I'm really looking forward to see what they can do at the state level.
Yeah, a little bit more of a chalky Class B.
I think so.
Yeah, but nonetheless,
who knows? I've been wrong before.
You're not too far from Mount Rushmore if you're playing over there. So maybe the winning team can celebrate the right way, right? That'll do it for the girls. SODAK 16. Best of luck to all the teams participating. It's always best time of the year, super fun matchups, super close games usually. I mean, you don't usually get a ton of blowouts in playoff basketball. I mean, it always obviously can happen, but the games get closer, the games get tighter, and the moments just get so much bigger. So best of luck to all those girls teams competing in the SODAK 16s. We only have one boys class set for their SODAK 16 boys AA. So we'll take a look at them.
These are going on Saturday.
Yeah, it'll go on Saturday, and these will be home games before we get, to the state tournament. It was a wacky year in AA a little bit for the boys' side, but there's 4 games that you specifically want to highlight. We'll start with Stevens at Jefferson. Jefferson won when they played 59-44 on January 6th. Jefferson's also won 5 in a row. Stevens is just 2-4 over their last 6. And if there's one thing that I can recall from the President's Bowl Classic specifically is this Sioux Falls Jefferson team. I mean, they kind of have that feeling of like a team that when they're really at their best, they can be possibly the best team in AA. But when things aren't clicking, it doesn't look good. So right now they're probably in that winning 5 in a row. Right now they're looking like a team that for being an 8 seed, they can give anybody a test in Class 2A.
They've really put it together. And starting out, the media gave them the number 1 ranking at the beginning of the year, which we were all a little puzzled by. And I think Coach Reck was puzzled by, and he thought, hey, we have potential to be there maybe at the end of the year, but we're definitely not there yet. And they've shown that arc this year as they've really ramped it up here in the last month. Stevens, on the other hand, when they played against Jefferson head-to-head, that was a key game for them. That was a game that maybe could give them a home game in the SODAK 16. They didn't pull that off. They played the toughest part of their schedule. They only went 2-4 down the stretch. They feel like they're just missing something on that team. But a win here to get them into the state tournament, they've got a great battle. 8 versus 9, anything could happen here. But I really like the way Jefferson's playing.
Yeah, all you need is a chance, though. It doesn't have to be pretty this time of the year. All you got to do is win, right? Then in the 10-7 game, we've got Lincoln against Watertown. Again, one of those 10-7s that really feels more like an 8-9. Lincoln did win on January 30th by 7, but Watertown has won 4 of the last 5, including a win over Roosevelt, who's one of the teams that we've been talking about all year long as one of those teams that, near the top of 2A. And Lincoln's played much better recently. So do you lean any particular way, or do you think this is really kind of a 50-50 toss-up?
Both teams have really good backcourts, and I think Dylan Rodden for Watertown is going to be really key in this game, see if the Arrows can pull it off. They do get the home court advantage in this one, which is huge because they support basketball in Watertown. But the last time these two teams played, surprisingly, it was Sam DeGroot and Sam Erickson for Lincoln who really showed up and played well to get them back on track. And Lincoln's played better here down the stretch, and probably one of the more physical, one of the more athletic, one of the more dangerous teams in this field, even though they come in as a 10 seed. We've seen what Coach Halstead's done with some of these lower seeded teams that have come into the tournament playing well for Lincoln, but this is a tough test. To beat Watertown twice on their home court, that's going to be tough to do. So I really like the way Watertown's playing in this one. But we all know Lincoln has the potential not only to beat Watertown, but to beat anybody in the state.
Yeah, Lincoln, one of those streaky teams, when they're playing well, they can battle with anybody. Then we've got a 12-5 in this section. Pierre at Washington. Washington won 56-40 on January 6th. But Pierre, however, has played the toughest part of their schedule as of late. So going to be feeling more battle tested and might feel like they're playing far better than a 12 seed. But Washington, they won 7 in a row.
Remember they had that big streak in the middle of the year?
Yeah, and then they lost 4, and now they've won 3 in a row. They've been kind of that streaky type of team. But I think we both like how Washington can play when they're at their best. It is a 12-5 game, but does it have that maybe 12-5 feel where Washington is a favorite and this would be a true upset, or does it feel more like if Pierre win, it wouldn't necessarily surprise you?
Well, exactly. Washington was in that hot streak when they did play earlier this year and got that 14 or 16-point win over Pierre earlier, but Pierre has some tools that really make you scared. I mean, Jet Zabel on the inside playing well. Their backcourt has played really well this year at times. It's going to take a complete team effort, though, to dismantle Washington. But we've also seen Washington during some of those bad streaks this year. I mean, they had a really rough stretch there before they started winning again. So hopefully they don't default back to that if they want to punch their ticket to the state tournament.
All right, and then lastly, we've got an 11-6. Again, those pesky 11-6 is O'Gorman at Huron. Huron won 58-55, so a 3-point win not too long ago, just about a week ago on February 20th. So these teams, again, getting right back to it. Do you think that maybe favors the team that lost in this scenario? Because a lot of teams, when you play those close games, you want to play again, right away. Like just lace them up right now. So do you think this maybe favors O'Gorman in this situation?
O'Gorman knows they can play with Huron. They played with them, in fact, better than them in the first half of that game. The third quarter belonged to Huron, and Blake Elwine ended up with a 20-point game as a sophomore, 6'7" guard. He's really gaining confidence as the season goes on. But O'Gorman comes into this, they're battle tested. They know they've got the athletes to hang with Huron. If they can shut down Blake Elwine, they can win this game. So this would not be a huge upset if O'Gorman comes into Huron and finds a way to get to the state tournament.
Of course, the state tournament happening right here in Sioux Falls at the Denny Sanford Premier Center, which will also be the site of the Seminole Tournament in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to that.
Busy place.
Yeah, but first comes high school, and it should deliver on all fronts. So if you're in the Sioux Falls area, a lot of really great basketball coming your way in these next few weeks. You have the high school state tournament, the NSIC tournament, which will be on Midco Sports, and the Seminole Tournament, which will also be on Midco Sports and Midco Sports Plus. So if you don't have Midco Sports or Midco Sports Plus, what are you doing? This is
a lot of great hoops.
This is the time to have it, people. Come on. So that'll do it for our overview of the SODAK 16s that are already set. We still have a few to shake out on the boys' side in Class A and B. And speaking of which, we've got some good region games coming up in 4A, Vermilion at Lenox, in 6A, Stanley County at Cheyenne Eagle Butte, right?
You got it.
We got it.
Nailed it.
And in 8A, Custer at Hot Springs. That's going to be the third time that they'll play this year.
Yeah, and just those 3 games in particular are the ones I'm looking at. Those teams trying to punch their ticket to the SODAK 16, which will be next Tuesday before our next show, so that's why I want to mention them quick. Lenox playing really well. I think they're going to have a tough time, though, beating Vermilion. Stanley County, Cheyenne Eagle Butte played an epic game the last time they met each other, and that really could go either way. And then Custer, Hot Springs, you mentioned it, third time they've played this year. The first time they played was super close. Hot Springs putting a little distance between them and Custer. The last time, we'll see if Custer can cut back into that lead with this third matchup.
And in this year's Class B has been it seems like there's a new number 1 every week.
Yeah, that's been a revolving door.
It's been a revolving door at the top, but there's been a lot of good teams in that class. No one really separated themselves, but a couple of interesting regional finals on Friday. Waverly South Shore at Aberdeen Christian and Bridgewater Emory at St. Mary. Those two teams actually played last Friday, and St. Mary just barely squeaked it out 66-65. And then also in that Waverly South Shore Aberdeen Christian game, when those two teams played in January, Aberdeen Christian won 36-34.
That's not your Class B.
So these Class B teams, no one's really separated themselves, and every game has been interesting. Every game has been tough. I expect this Class B for the boys is going to be, I think it's anyone's ball game.
Yeah, just getting to the SODAK 16 is going to be a struggle, and we highlighted those two games because those two games they played earlier this season and had 2-point matchups, so it really could go either way. I think Aberdeen Christian has done a phenomenal job coming back. Last couple of years they've been a really strong team. Haven't had quite the numbers this year on their team, and still knocking on the door of a SODAK 16. And then Bridgewater Emory and St. Mary. St. Mary's been in the rankings this year. They barely got a win against Bridgewater Emory, but Bridgewater Emory, I think, plays that kind of brand of offense where they can compete with anybody. So those are the two games I'll be watching on Friday night.
All right, it's almost time for Class A and Class B to join in all the SODAK 16 fun, and then the rest of the SODAK 16 action going on this weekend all across the state of South Dakota. So it's officially playoff time. We have gotten to where we wanted to get. We're running out of time here on these shows.
So
only got
next week we've got a state preview for the girls, the 3 tournaments and the girls, and then the week after we'll have a state preview for the boys' 3 tournaments. So 2 more shows left on What's the Hoops.
Yeah, and then we'll finally crown our South Dakota champions. That'll do it for this edition of What's the Hoops with myself and Jandy. Thank you, as always, for joining us and tuning in. Be sure to check out all the high school action happening all around the state, whether you're in Sioux Falls, whether you're in Rapid City, whether you're in Brookings, wherever you may be. There's probably some really good high school basketball action going down. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you all for 2 more shows of What's the Hoops right here.